Good morning. My name is Robin Livingston. I'm a member of this UU Society and today's worship associate. I use they, them pronouns. I am grateful to share this time with you today. We have arrived at this moment from the many different places of our lives to make meaning and create healing in community. We are friends and neighbors, teachers and students, activists and peacemakers. We embrace the diversity among us and widen the circle further, knowing that each one of us deserves care and has something to offer. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Our guest in the pulpit today is Reverend Melissa Carville-Ziemer. Melissa's ministry is with the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association, where she serves as one of the two co-executives. In addition, she is an affiliated minister with First Parish in Northfield, Massachusetts, where she leads service once per month. You may recognize Melissa as she and her family have been attending services and participating in religious education here at UUSA for the last year and a half, as frequently as their schedules allow.
I invite you to worship this morning with these words from David White. It's a poem called Faith. I want to write about faith, about the way the moon rises over cold snow night after night, faithful, even as it fades from fullness, slowly becoming the last curving and impossible sliver of light before the final darkness. But I have no faith myself. I refuse it even the smallest entry. Let this then, my small poem, like a new moon, slender and barely open, be the first prayer that opens me to faith.
I invite you to say the chalice lighting words with me. We light this flame to invite a world of peace, where we heal the wounds, where we share what we have with one another, where justice is another word for relationship, and we listen for what love has to say. And now I invite you to rise in body, spirit, heart, and voice to sing our first hymn, I Know This Rose Will Open, on the screen and your order of service, and number 396 in the gray hymnal.
Today who would like to help me talk about and think about what you see on the screen, I would love for you to come join me up here. Who knows what's that? What's mushrooms? Okay, I have a joke. It's kind of a riddle joke. Are you ready? I learned this from our friends at Muir Woods National Park, and that's in California. There's a lot of mushrooms in that park, and there's a joke on the website of the park. How much room do fungi, that's another word, for mushrooms. How much room do fungi need to grow?
How much?
Any guesses? None? How much room do fungi need to grow? Are you ready? As mushroom as possible.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
You did? You knew it. It's a funny joke because mushrooms are actually the fruit of the mycelium. That's a really big word. Can you say that? Mycelium?
Yes.
Mycelium. Does anybody know what it is? You do? Can you tell us? Yeah, it's kind of like the root of the mushroom. And it stretches out really, really far. Do you have any idea how far it can go? You do? You know a lot about this. 120 miles. It can go really far. I don't know exactly how many miles, but I know that it can go many miles. So you are on the right page. Mushrooms underneath the ground have this vast root-like structure. It's not exactly roots, but it looks like roots to our eyes. And it spreads really, really, really far, and it can go for miles. And if we were able to look under the ground, we would be able to see part of it, but we wouldn't be able to see all of it because some of it is microscopic. What does that mean?
Can only be seen like really tiny. It can only be seen with a microscope.
Exactly. Some of it is so tiny it can only be seen with a microscope. So I have another question. If, like in Muir Woods National Monument, there are both trees and mushrooms and other plants, and we know that the mushrooms have this mycelium, this huge, vast root-like structure, and we know the trees have roots, what do you think happens underground? What do you think? They get tangled up. That's exactly right. They get tangled up together, and then they form a relationship with each other, and they function like a highway, a superhighway, this like root-like structure that gets all tangled up. And you know what some scientists call it? It's kind of another funny joke.
What?
It's like an internet, I'll give you a clue, except it's underground. So it's not the World Wide Web. Do you know?
Tinder.
Not Tinder, no. It kind of sounds like the World Wide Web. Do you know?
Yeah.
The Wood Wide Web. Some scientists call it the Wood Wide Web. This huge underground structure that we can't see, but if we looked underground, we would be able to learn about with the help of microscopes, and some with our eyes. So this Wood Wide Web, this vast highway, this communication system under the ground, it shares things between the trees and the mushrooms and the other plants, like nutrients and water. And the mycelial network, the mushrooms, they benefit from the sharing too. So some people say that we humans should study this kind of relationship in nature for what it can teach us, that we can learn something about our lives as humans from the relationship between the trees and the mushrooms and the other plants. Do you have any ideas what we might be able to learn for our lives about that kind of sharing? Well, I have two ideas I want to suggest to you. One is that each part has something important to contribute. The mushrooms and the mycelial network has something important to contribute. The plants, the trees, just like us. Everybody here has something important to contribute. Each part is important. And another idea that we can learn from this is about how each part strengthens the whole. The trees are stronger, and the mushrooms are stronger, and the forests are stronger because each part does their part. Just like this congregation. Do you think that this congregation or your school would be as strong if there was only one person in charge of doing everything? So everybody contributing their part makes it stronger. These are a couple ideas that I think we can learn from the wisdom of mushrooms and mycelial network and trees. and I thank you for coming to consider it with me today. We're going to keep considering some of this wisdom up here while you head downstairs. And I think, is Ken going to tell us about what's happening?
On intersectionality, how different groups work together with things. With the younger children, we're going to be doing different crafts led by Joel, our intern, and with the older elementary school kids, we're going to be hearing stories from Sarah Prager. And there is no owl today, but the youth are meeting, and they're working with Nancy and doing a role-playing game. So, welcome.
Our hymn that we'll sing together as the children continue heading downstairs is in the Teal hymnal. It's number 1043. It's called Szekely Aldas. This is a hymn from our Unitarian siblings in Transylvania, Hungary, Eastern Europe. Szekely Aldas, will you please join in singing this hymn? Just the English. I'm so happy to be a guest here today, and I want to thank you for your hospitality and your welcome, especially Robin. They've been so supportive in helping me prepare for this service today. Thank you, Robin, and thank you to Brenda and the choir. It's great to be with you in this role. You may recognize me if you haven't met me before today, because my spouse, and who's also a Unitarian Universalist minister, and I have been coming here with our kids for about a year and a half. And we came because Northfield, where I've been affiliated and am still affiliated, when we first affiliated there when our kids were quite tiny, had this lovely multi-generational community. But unfortunately, as is true for many smaller congregations in particular, it was hard to bring the younger people back after the pandemic in such a small place. And in time, the last year that we were primarily there, my kids were the only kids. And as they were getting older, we decided they really needed to be in a community where there could be other kids. So I love the way that you support the faith formation ministry here, and it's really been a blessing for our kids. So I want to thank you for your investment in that ministry. And I really want to also appreciate the ways that you share the ministry here with Reverend Rachel. Even though I'm here in parent mode and have kept a pretty low profile, I can really see the ways that you share the ministry here in collaboration with the professional minister in so many aspects, not just in faith formation, but in worship and in community life and in the leadership of the congregation. It's a beautiful thing. It's a lot. It makes a congregation so much more dynamic when the ministry is shared, in my opinion, and I can see that happening here. And so you already know a lot, I think, just from my observation of you, about sustaining a vital congregation. And I think that in this time, when there's so much deception and dishonesty and greed in public life, places like congregations can be a really vitally important anchor for both individuals and for the community. So I want to honor and appreciate your investment in this congregation as an important place in this community as well. So it probably goes without saying that this is an age of distrust. We don't need any data to know that. And yet there is a lot of data which we can consult to know just how distrusting this age is in the history of the United States. There are 2 polls that are taken annually, one by Gallup, the organization Gallup, and the other by the Pew Research Center. The Gallup poll measures confidence in public institutions, and the Pew Research Center measures trust in public life. That's how they name their surveys. And Gallup has been taking this poll since 1979, and the last 2 years have been the lowest record of confidence in public life since they've been taking this survey. The institutions with the strongest confidence score in the Gallup poll at the top, they measure 19 different institutions. The institutions with the strongest confidence polls are small businesses, the military, and science as of 2025. And the ones at the bottom with the weakest confidence scores are Congress, TV news, and big business. Religion comes in 6th from the top, with just a little more confidence than people have in higher education, a little less confidence than people have in higher education, and a little more confidence than people have in our medical system. So that's what Gallup reports. The Pew Research Center, which has been taking their survey for about 25 years, asks about trust in institutions. That is also the lowest score on record. Only 17% of people taking the survey in 2025 indicated that they have trust in our federal government to do the right thing most of the time. At other times in the history of this survey, that number was much, much higher. The story since then has been one of declining trust in government. Now, like Gallup, Pew also reports on the institutions that make up our public lives, but one thing they do a little bit differently is they ask people about the levels of trust in society as a whole. And a strong majority of respondents say that it's important to work on improving trust in society and even have ideas about how to do that. This is a really interesting thing about our collective consciousness as reflected in the people who take these surveys. In an age of great distrust, most people say it's important to work on improving trust and have ideas about how to do that. The ways that are many and varied, and one that I'd like to focus on today is the way of faithfulness. So I say that word faithfulness easily, with a sense that faith is an important part of spiritual growth and development. But I realize that religious words can be weighted for people and sometimes have negative connotations. So if it's true for you, I invite you to the possibility that faith may have a different definition than the one that holds that negative weight for you. So one possibility for thinking about faith is as a noun, either as a set of beliefs that you either have or you don't have. That's one way of understanding faith, and a way that can often be weighted for people if the faith concepts that they hold are ones that they move away from later in life. But it's not the only way to understand faith, nor is it the way that I think most fits for our liberal religious way of being. Another way to talk about faith is as a verb. In this way of understanding, faith isn't about belief, but rather about practice. It's about how we live. Not something we have or we don't have, but something that we can constantly cultivate and practice in our lives. I think this way of understanding faith is particularly helpful for Unitarian Universalism because this is not a tradition in which everyone has the same beliefs. I heard someone once say that asking Unitarian Universalists what we believe isn't necessarily a particularly illuminating question because we have so many and varied beliefs. But ask us what our values are. Ask us what our covenants are. Ask us where we put our love, and then we might be able to say some things in common. So covenants, our promises, informed by our values about how we want to live in this world, I think get us closer to understanding what it might mean to talk about faith as a verb. In Pali, the original language that many Buddhist texts were written in, the word usually translated as faith or confidence or trust is saddha. And saddha literally means to place one's heart upon. So to have faith in this way of speaking of faith is to place and offer our hearts. We place and offer our hearts with our friends and with our families, with our community, in humanity as a whole, with the earth, the universe that we share. We offer our hearts to the quest for justice and the creation of peace. We offer our hearts to visions of healing and wholeness. We offer our hearts to this world that we share, this earth that we share. And this is not a strictly cognitive decision, but rather a felt response to the experience of life. In this way of speaking of faith, we can contemplate how faithful we are living by considering how well our priorities reflect our loves. So this is something that we can take a look at in our bank account. We can take a look at in our calendar. How do we spend our money? How do we spend our time? Where do we place our greatest energy? Is it in alignment with our deepest loves and highest commitments? This is a way to contemplate how faithfully we are living. And it's a good question to contemplate every now and again. And here's another question we might contemplate. How is our faith growing? Because when we talk about faith as a verb, faith is about the way we live into our promises that we give to ourselves, to each other, to the holy. That faith can never be static. We're constantly changing and evolving, growing. Our faith is constantly tested and confirmed, and refined, and reaffirmed, and tested. So we can reflect on our lives, each of us individually, and I want to take a few moments now to invite us to reflect collectively in the history of Unitarian Universalism, specifically the Universalist branch of our spiritual tradition. Historically, Universalist theology is rooted in a concept of universal salvation, the idea that all will eventually be saved and reconciled unto God. Our religious ancestors believe that our calling is to try to establish the kingdom of heaven here on earth, while acknowledging and being honest about the fact that too often humans create living hell here on earth for other humans when we fail to acknowledge their humanness, their worth, their dignity, as no less and no more important than our own. The Universalists who came before us had a clear and compelling theology, and the legacy they leave us reveals why that many of the ways they translated their theology resulted in faithful action in the world. Universalists were active in a host of social reforms aimed at humanizing and helping other people recognize the humanness, the dignity and worth of others whom society dehumanized, including prisoners and people with mental illness and the poor. Universalists were active in abolition and education reform and the fight for women's suffrage. And of course, it's important to say that not everybody, not all Universalists were in accord with these efforts, and that those who were committed were imperfect in their own efforts in aligning their own lives with their values. To be human is to be full of contradictions and inconsistencies. We are finite and flawed, and yet this is not an excuse for inaction or harmful action, because the Unitarian theologian, James Luther Adams, said that one of the things that we know to be true about humanity is that we make promises, keep promises, break promises, and then can make them again. The story is never done. Embracing this understanding of humanness is part of what Unitarian Universalists are about: being promise-making, promise-keeping, promise-breaking, promise-renewing creatures. To live a Unitarian Universalist faith is to try to live our lives in alignment with our covenants, the promises we make to ourselves, to each other, to the holy or the sacred or the divine or God, however you want to call that, which is larger than yourself. Drawing on our theology that we have inherited and translating it for today, we could say that Unitarian Universalists promise to try to love the hell out of the world while working for the liberation of us all. People before us have done this imperfectly in their own way, and people after us will still have plenty of work to do. Our opportunity during our very brief time on this planet is to do our part to keep on practicing, building the kingdom of heaven here on earth, despite the evidence which might dissuade us from our efforts. And the truth is that evidence is not good. We know that. And yet there's always room for hope, because people are constantly waking up. Because we're not static, because we're always growing and evolving, we are waking up. We are awakening to new possibilities, and so are the people around us. So some people are waking up to the injustices that we have inherited. Some people are waking up to the reality that this country that we live in was built on genocide and slavery. Other people are waking up to the truth that we are already suffering the consequences of climate change. Other people are waking up to the understanding that these things are not disconnected. And in fact, our kids are learning that right this very moment as they study intersectionality. Climate chaos, broken treaties, police violence against Black bodies, extractive capitalist practices, white supremacy culture, war, these things are fundamentally interconnected. And to allow ourselves to really know these things is an act of faith. Faith that we can live with the truth, however hard it is, and faith that we can work toward justice and healing, however imperfectly in our own lives, that our efforts, individually and collectively, matter, even if we cannot solve the problems once and for all. To have faith is to practice making choices that can lure the world we long for more fully into being, moment by moment. Faith is trust that how we live matters. It's making room for us to grow and change the way we live as we learn about ourselves and the world we share. And it's about remembering that we are promise-making, promise-keeping, promise-breaking, promise-renewing creatures who can always begin again in love. So I want to end by returning to that time for all ages with the kids. I invited the conversation about mycelial networks and mushrooms, and I forgot to show that slide. Is it up there? Oh, I'm so sorry. There was a slide of the mycelial roots. I invited that conversation because I was inspired by the writings of Adrienne Marie Brown and a network of leaders who are committed to emergence, this shaping of what is becoming. And there's a whole generation of leaders from diverse religious traditions and none who are writing and thinking and practicing emergence. In this movement, faith is endlessly active in ways that move well beyond the human world into the earth herself, who can teach us about faith through bodies like mushrooms and mycelial networks and the interconnectedness with trees and plants that happens under the ground. So we can learn about how each is important to the whole and how the sharing happens between the parts. But we can also learn how to respect and value that even the hard parts, like toxins and death and decay, are all parts, sacred parts of the circle. In the work of Brown and her associates, the faithfulness of the earth and the wisdom of mushrooms and dandelions, roots and starlings are all sources of inspiration and wisdom and guidance that we can draw upon in human life. This approach to faith is rooted in teaching and learning and a deep commitment to collective liberation, which requires our humility and surrender as much as it needs our strength and determination. In these chaotic and anxious and highly unpredictable times when distrust in institutions is being weaponized to weaken them further still, it's important that we find ways to keep choosing and practicing faith in our own lives and like here, the way that you care for and keep this place to strengthen not only you and our children, but this community and the ones who will come after we are gone. We may not know what difference our efforts can make or how or when, but choosing faith is trusting that it matters and continuing to trust. When the progress of prior generations is being actively dismantled and so much that we love is threatened, our faithfulness matters more than ever. So let us keep our faith and know it's a blessing. Amen. I invite you to join with me now in the spirit of prayer with this prayer created by my colleague, Reverend Joan Javier Duval. Holy mystery, silent presence, uncertain bearer of the weight of it all. In this quiet moment, we listen. We listen for the maybe still breathing, perhaps still whispering faintest sign of the universal good. We listen between the cacophony of the distractions, pulling us towards untruth and falsehood. We listen amidst the shrill cries of desperation, of we've had enough, of when will they stop killing the people, of how much more will the waters rise, of when will it be safe to return home, of how much longer can we hang on. We listen and we wait. Through the tumult of these days, we seek assurance. We seek the fulfillment of a promise made to ourselves, a promise made to those who have stretched to call neighbor, a promise written and enshrined and yet unfulfilled. So help us, abiding mystery, to hang on, to hold on when all is in question, when all is in doubt. Help us to stay firm to our commitments and our own promises. Lead us back to connection, back into the bonds of humanity that help us know each other as beloved. May we keep listening. May we keep watch. May we beckon love and justice and mercy with our own whispers, with our own shouts, with our cries, until all know themselves part of the circle of love. Amen, and blessed be. Our closing hymn is number 95. There is more love somewhere.
My name is Mary Beth Seminario. I'm a member of the Dedicated Offering Committee. For this month in March, we are very pleased to support the Center for New Americas, and Lori Millman, the director, is here to tell us more about it.
Good morning. I'm Lori. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm very grateful to be here today, and I'm very grateful on behalf of the center that you have chosen us to receive the proceeds of your donations in March. So thank you. And I've got a little bit of a slideshow here because I think that the work that we do is probably more vividly shown through pictures. Because we do welcome people from all over the world, and I apologize for making a mess with my morning coffee on my way up. So why don't you go to the next slide, which is our mission. We are a community-based organization. We welcome and serve immigrants. We've been doing this for 35 years. We do this with education and career support, and really what we're about is access. What we do is we give people the skills and the confidence to access community resources and opportunities and build new lives here. And so, can I have the next slide, please? We teach English for speakers of other languages. And we do that in 4 different locations. We're here in Amherst, we're in Northampton, we're in Springfield, we're in Greenfield. We teach mornings, we teach evenings. Our evening classes are online. Our morning classes are hybrid, partly online, partly in person. In addition to English, we teach civics, paying taxes, federal holidays, rights and responsibilities of citizenship, and we encourage our legislators to come and visit classes every year, and they do, and our students ask them questions about healthcare, about transportation, about housing, about support for children, and of course, how they can support immigrants who are living here in the community. And we also, can I have the next slide, please? We work with the MIRA Coalition, if you may know them, the Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition, and we join the Immigrants Day at the State House most years, and we advocate there as well. And there are quite a few bills that are being considered by the legislature now that you could support for immigrant safety, like no law enforcement in courthouses so that people can actually comply with the law and show up for hearings without worrying about being abducted. Next slide. All of our classes are supported with career advisors. The advisors help people apply for work. They also connect them to community resources, and we're blessed in Amherst to have many community resources, Family Outreach of Amherst, the Survival Center, the Health Center. We connect with all of those places, and we help people to find those connections. Next slide. Employment is a big part of what we do. People come here, they want to work. Often they have not been able to support their families where they're coming from, and that's what they want. So we organize mock job fairs so that our students can actually present themselves at real job fairs. UMass Dining Services hires many, many, many of our students, Amherst colleges, and as I'm sure you know, many of our students and alumni work in healthcare, right? If you have hired a home health aide, chances are there's somebody who may have been born elsewhere, not in this country. Next. We work very closely, as I said, with community partners. So last year, when many of the Haitian newcomers who had been living in shelter for over a year, whole families in one room in a hotel room, were relocated into the community, and many families are living in Amherst, we connected them with community service. And community resources in Amherst were more than welcome, more than willing to come into our center and introduce their services. And with just a modest amount of help, immigrants soar, always. We also teach digital literacy, very important now, right? Just imagine trying to connect with your child's school or apply for a job or make a health appointment. If you don't have a tablet, you don't have internet access, you don't know how to use those. We distribute tablets, we connect people to the internet, we enroll them in low-cost internet if it exists, and if it doesn't, we lend them a hotspot, and we teach safe use of the internet. We also offer on-site childcare so that our students can go to school if they have very young children. Next. We are blessed to be supported by community volunteers. They serve as tutors, they serve as classroom assistants, job coaches, citizenship coaches. They come into our building and do immigration legal intakes, and we're looking at launching an even broader volunteer support network modeled on the Catholic Charities Agency model of Circle of Care, because there's so much need right now with immigrants being so relentlessly targeted and support services being withdrawn. So we're looking at extending even more volunteer support, and a lot of that support is coming from the faith community, not surprisingly. We also offer immigration legal services, so we have no to low-cost immigration legal services, and we rely on volunteers as well. This is one of our citizenship clinics where a volunteer comes in, sits at a computer, and helps people complete the application that then becomes mailed to USCIS for citizenship. And we also offer assistance with employment authorization, legal permanent residence, petitioning for a family member so that families can be reunited. And next slide. You may know us for our July 4th ceremony every year in Northampton, downtown Northampton, where about 50 people take their oath and hundreds of people come out to support and say, you belong here. And we are so grateful to work in a community that is so caring and so supportive. We couldn't do this work in this arena without community support. And you can see, the next slide, that we have a lot of public, state, and private funding, and we're grateful for all of it. So thank you for adding to it. We appreciate the support.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Another world is possible. Each week we collect an offering and we split it with an outside organization to help us remember that we can't make the world a better place on our own. During March, our congregation generously shares half of our offering basket with the Center for New Americans. Half of the money collected in our offering today supports the life of this congregation, and the other half of the money will support the Center for New Americans in their work of supporting immigrants and refugees in Western Mass. Please give generously today in the basket, by text, by check, or through our website, uusocietyamherst.org/donate. Please join me in the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We are about to sing our closing song. You are welcome to stay right where you are and be held in the love of this congregation, or you're welcome to rise and move into a circle along the outer aisles, place your hand over your heart, or hold hands with someone near you and sing This Day We Come.
Let us go now taking with us these words from the 19th century Unitarian minister Theodore Parker. "Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living." Go in peace.